Konnichiwa. Watashi no namai ha Alistair Humphreys. My name is Alistair Humphreys. Hello from England. I am an English adventurer and writer, and I'm very happy that you guys in Japan have been learning about some of my adventures. And thank you very much, arigatou gozaimasu, for sending me some excellent questions. I've got the questions here. Let me open them up and I will answer your questions. It is morning in England, 9 o'clock, so I'm having my morning cup of coffee, and I thought you might like my coffee cup. Look at this. All the way from a nice sushi place in Japan. And I have my morning coffee in it. It's a bit dirty, sorry. Yeah, I really love Japan. I spent 3 months cycling the whole way down Japan, and it's one of my favourite countries in the world. It really is. So I'm very happy to answer your questions today. Here they are. Miu asks, what is the hardest thing about your trips? I think the hardest thing is being alone in different parts of the world and... Ooh. Sorry, just outside my window here I have some food to feed the birds, and there is a woodpecker here. I don't know how to say woodpecker in Japanese, sorry. The hardest thing I think is being on my own, spending a lot of time on my own, being away from my friends and family. Jan, what does it feel like rowing across the Atlantic, and was it dangerous? Rowing across the Atlantic was exciting and boring. It was frightening, but also relaxing, because it's much simpler than everyday life. If you think about your life at home, so many different things happen. When you're out on the Atlantic, life is very simple. You just row, you sleep, and you eat. It's a very simple life. And is it dangerous? Well, is crossing the road dangerous? When you walk across the road, is that dangerous? Yes, it is dangerous because there are fast cars coming, and that can be dangerous. But you take care, you look carefully, you make sure it's safe, and you cross. And I think it's the same with rowing the Atlantic. There are risks, you're in the ocean, but we tried to make sure that we were safe, and if the weather was big, if there were big waves, we'd wear a harness with a rope fixing us onto the boat. So I didn't really feel very dangerous. Wakaba, where's the most impressive place that changed your mind in your adventure? That's a good question. Changing your mind is a really good thing about travelling, to go to different countries and realise they're not how you imagine they are, or how you learn about them from the newspapers and television at home. So I think for this I would say the Middle East, countries like Syria and Lebanon. And before I went, I was a bit worried about maybe my safety there from some of the news stories you would hear about the Middle East in Britain. But actually, I loved it. It was beautiful, friendly, welcoming, kind. So that definitely changed my mind. Haruto. Good. Haruto-san. What climate was most difficult for your journey? What situation affected you most? The most difficult climate... So very hot is difficult, really hot deserts is difficult, but I think more difficult is very, very cold, freezing cold. So I've been very cold in Greenland, also in Siberia, in Russia. But actually also when I was in Japan, I cycled through Hokkaido in the winter. There was a lot of snow. Yuki, very cold. It was very cold. So yeah, I think really cold is the hardest thing for me for adventures. Koyomi, why did you decide your trip to go to India? I'm not sure here whether you mean why did I not go to India when I was cycling around the world, or why did I go to India later and walk across it. I didn't go to India when I was cycling around the world for the simple reason that by then I was very tired and I kind of wanted to take the shorter route towards home. But also I really wanted to visit India, and that's why later I decided to go there for a separate adventure, to walk across southern India and see the variety and colour and the amazing history and food and culture of India. Noah, what was your most amusing and disastrous experience on your journey around the world? Wow. Amusing and disastrous. Well, something that happened to me in Ecuador in South America, which was not amusing at the time, but usually makes people laugh when I tell them about it later, is I was riding up a big mountain and a truck was going past. Very big truck going very slowly. And I was riding up very slowly, and the driver just opened his window, and he reached out the window, bang, punched me in the head. And I fell off, and he drove off, and I lay there on the road thinking, what has happened there? And he went, and I have no idea why he did it. So it wasn't very amusing, but it was quite disastrous. Naho, was there something which stayed consistent when interacting with people all around the world? That's a very good question. I think one of the best things about going around the world was, before I began, I thought a lot about the differences between people. Japanese people are like this. American people are like this. Spanish people are like this. But actually, when I went around the world, I realised we're much more similar. Everybody laughs at something funny. Everybody knows that if you're thirsty, they will give you some water. And in every country in the world, nearly everybody was kind and friendly and helpful. And of course, in every country, there are a few bad and annoying people, but most people were good, kind, and very similar everywhere in the world. What would you like to do most if you had time? I would love to go to Antarctica. I'd really love to go there. Chihaya. If you were asked to describe your adventure in one word, what would it be? That's a great question. One word for cycling around the world. Interesting. Yeah, it was really interesting. Every day is a bit different. Jinichi. Most dangerous scenario. So here's an example of how people are bad in some places and good in some places and maybe mixed together. When I was in Russia, a car stopped one night and a man got out with a gun and said, "Give me your money." And of course this was very frightening. So I gave him my money. But at the time I was in a big forest and I was quite lost. I didn't know where I was. So once he had taken my money, I got out my map and I said, "Please, can you help me? Tell me where I am." And he helped give me directions and helped make sure I went the right way. And then he drove away with my money. So good person, bad person, all mixed in together. Eureka, what is the most enjoyable adventure in your life? I think the most enjoyable adventure was when I walked through Spain playing a violin to get money. If you look on YouTube, there's a film called My Midsummer Morning about that adventure, and I really loved doing that. Riku, what motivates you the most in your adventures? I think the motivation for my adventures has changed over time. Oh, I'm about to sneeze. Huh? Ooh. Nope, it's gone away. Riku, what motivates you most in your adventures? I think my motivation has changed over time. When I was younger, I was motivated to push myself hard, to challenge myself, to do something difficult, to work very hard. Very Japanese style. I wanted to really work hard. And then now I'm older, I'm more motivated by curiosity, to learn about different places and different people and nature, becoming much more important for me in my adventures. K or Kai, I'm not sure, sorry. What did you learn from the trip? I learnt that the world is a good, kind place. Soshiro. Which challenge was unexpectedly hard? The hardest thing of the journey was the journey inside my head. To spend so much time alone, to have so far ahead of me before I finished, before I succeeded, to try to keep motivated, to keep going. That was very hard. And I didn't plan or prepare properly for that at all. So, yeah, that was the hardest, unexpected part of the adventure. Mira, have you been through a near-death experience? Not really. No, not really. I really like being alive, so I don't take big risks, and I try to be safe, really. Shion, how did you overcome the culture and language barriers while travelling? And how did you establish active interactions with the local community? Well, this is a good question to talk about Japanese people with, because in Japan Japan was one of the most difficult countries for me in terms of the language and the culture being very different to England. So when I can't read katakana, hiragana, I can't read the Japanese alphabet, I can't speak Japanese, I can't understand Japanese. So suddenly, you're in a country when you go into a shop and you get some food, and from looking at the packet, I can't tell, is this chocolate or is this soy? Is this delicious or is this natto? I don't know what this is. So suddenly it felt very difficult, which is hard, but it's also exciting. Everything becomes an adventure. Going into a shop to buy some food suddenly becomes an adventure. I also found Japan really interesting and different for the culture. There's so many things in Japan that you do, I love, but are very different to home. Everything. Taking off your shoes when you come into the house, what your house looks like, the way you sleep on the beds are different, chopsticks, everything was so different. And what I would try to do was in different cultures, I try to make lots of mistakes, but to be polite as well, to try. And I think from different people, if they see that you are trying to learn their ways, if you make a silly mistake, then they laugh at you and they help you. They're not insulted by you. So I'd always be trying to learn the new things, but also not worrying too much. Of course, I'll make mistakes in this culture. I've never been here before. So just smile and be polite. And it's really enjoyable. I love going to places now with different cultures and languages. But I also wish that I could speak the languages in these different countries. So you guys now speaking Japanese and English, this is amazing. If you can speak a different language, that is so useful. And also, I'm really lucky speaking English. Every country in the world, you can find somebody who speaks English. So now that you guys are learning English, you could go to France, to Russia, to Argentina, and you'll be able to find people to speak English, even if you can't find people to speak Japanese with. Kiara, what bring you to do the journey? Why was I motivated? I wanted to do this journey because I wanted to see life away from my home country. I wanted to see what life was like in different places. I wanted to challenge myself and try to do something difficult. I wanted to learn about the world. And I also wanted to be a writer. I wanted to start writing books as well. And actually, where is it? I've got this. So I write books in English, and I try to get them translated into different languages. And so far, I've never had a book translated into Japanese. But I'm getting closer, at least to Asia. Look, I've got a book in Korean. And another one here. I can't read anything of this, so I hope they translate it correctly. But yeah, not yet Japanese. One day, I hope. Where are we? Ryuichi. I think Ryuichi. Sorry. I think Anne Monet. You all ask the same question as Kiara, really. But Monet also asked, how do you build up muscle to ride a bicycle? How did I train and get fit? I didn't do any training, and I wasn't very fit, and I wasn't an athlete. But if you just ride your bicycle every day, you get fitter and fitter. So I just prepared for the trip by riding on the journey. I didn't do anything before. I just started and I got fitter as I went. You say, what were the best countries while cycling around the world? Now, okay, best countries. I honestly really loved Japan. It was so interesting, so different. The history, the culture, I loved it. The food is so interesting. It looks so different to the food in England. And also the food in Japan is very surprising because sometimes it is very delicious, oishi, sometimes very delicious, and sometimes very, very disgusting. Really, some of the most disgusting food I've ever had in Japan is in Japan. Natto and strange things. Oh, but they all look beautiful, so you don't know until you put it in your mouth whether it's going to be delicious or disgusting. So it's exciting. So I really like Japan. I also really loved lots of other countries. Lebanon, very nice food. Colombia, beautiful landscape and really nice music and culture. I loved Sudan in Africa, very kind people. There's many different places I like, but there's a few of them. And the final question, how did I feel after returning to your country? So when I cycled the whole way around the world, the finish, I was excited, I was happy, I was proud, I was glad to see my family and my friends. But I was also sad that the adventure was finished. And I was also a bit afraid because I'd been doing this for 4 years and now I didn't know what I would do next year or for the rest of my life. So it was a real mixture of feelings when I got to the end of cycling around the world. Right, that is all your questions. Thank you very much for your excellent questions. Arigato gozaimasu. And good luck with learning English. And I hope you get to travel around the world and meet lots of other cultures and practice your English as well. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.